This is a meeting of the council held in public. It is not a public meeting. There is no fire drill planned, so if the fire alarm sounds, please leave by the exit nearest the large screen at the front of the room and proceed down the fire exit to the courtyard. Once it is safe to return, councillors will receive a text message. Officers will also advise when it is safe to return to the meeting. We are recording the meeting this evening using our webcasting system. The webcast will be transmitted live and will be available on the council's website following the meeting. All mobile devices should be switched to off or set to silent so that the meeting is not interrupted by ringtones. Generally, the public seating area are not filmed. However, entering the meeting room and using the public seating area, you are consenting to being filmed and to the possible use of those images and sound recordings for webcast and or training purposes. Anyone intended to film or audio record any part of the meeting is asked to do so in a manner that does not disrupt the meeting. Please refrain from filming the public gallery. Right, that's got the niceties out of the way. Now we'll get on with the meeting. Right, apologies for absence. Have we got any apologies for absence? Councillor Allen, and it looks like Councillor Shields is not here as well. But declarations of interest. Have we got any declarations of interest? No declarations of interest. Minutes. Confirmation of minutes held at the Wickford Area Committee held on the 4th of November 2025. All those in agree, please show. Sorry?
There's an inaccuracy in the minutes because I was away and it's recorded me as attending and voting. So that needs to be corrected before I can leave.
Okay, Councillor, that will be corrected. Apart from Councillor Jeffries' slight error, is there any other? No? So all those in favour, please show. Against? Abstentions? One abstention. Right. Community spotlight. An opportunity for local volunteer groups and organisations to inform the area committee. We was going to have a bar and bus video, but the video's not working, so as a committee we've decided that we'll postpone that event and have them to our next meeting. So let's have a vote on that. All those in favour, please show. Right, okay, so that's gone. Right, so item number 5, the Pride team, to receive an update on the work of the Pride team. I'll pass over to Rob Baker.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, councillors. I have another presentation for you just to update you on some of the work that the Wickford Area Pride team have been doing in the last few months. Shared this shared a presentation. It is photograph heavy, but it's the best way to tell a story. And at the end, if there's any questions, I'm happy to take those. So just going through the team is still Greg Monk and Richard Barwick. It's been ever present since we started working with the area committees through with the Pride teams. There's a number of rows that have been completed in December and January, but I won't go through the list, but there's a number there from Barnum Shops, Eastwood Note Bridge, Swan Lane, all the way through parts of the Wickford Ward. And these are the photos that I'll go through next, and before and afters. You see, not council land, I would suggest on this area. This is overgrowth from potentially a private land, but this is the type of works that are not in the contract that we would undertake with the Pride teams. Again, an alleyway there, I believe that's on the way to the train station, rear of High Street. Further alleyways cleared. I mean, that one looks like it hadn't been accessible for a while in Swan Lane. Again, lots of overgrowth there. Transforms that area, as you can see. This area is reported as dumped garden waste. It's clearly someone's taken offence to the shrubs that were growing in that area, and something we removed. We're now arranging for those stumps to be ground out from that area. Again, some tidying up of, I believe that's the old police station. Grass cutting as well. But it says at the top, how foolish of me. Again, I think that's again the police station. Just some service updates on the Pride team. So there's training now in place for chainsaw operations for all the Pride teams. That training should be undertaken soon. We've also purchased chainsaws for their use. Very small chainsaws, but they will be able to tackle large self sets, epicormic growth from trees, in a lot faster fashion than they currently do using loppers and bow saws. I mean, I've seen some areas where, you know, it's taken them an hour plus to do a tree just to remove the epicormic growth from it, when these chainsaws would probably take that down to about 15 minutes. So a lot, they could do reductions. The hedge trimmers won't get all the way through those. Some of the shrubs that they're trying to tackle, but these are there to assist them in doing further reductions and biting into some of the shrub beds we're trying to tackle. All the equipment now has been replaced with electric. So every piece of kit they use now is fully electric. Whilst that is it is saving some money on the fuel, replaced by the electric use, but that is less. But the main importance of this is hand-arm vibration. So it's to protect the staff from exposure to hand-arm vibration. Couple of crunch dates here now set. Is Craze Hill Recreation Ground on the 7th of March, and further crunch at Wick Country Park on the 21st of March. I understand from Alan that they are now set. I flicked through those fairly sharp. If I'm happy to go back over any photographs if you wanted to look further, or I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you for that. Do we have any questions, Councillor Sargent?
Thank you, Chairman. I noted on the roads that you gave, Rob, that there was only one in Notebridge, and I think that was Eastfield Road. The rest of them were in Wickford. Were there any, I mean, I know some work has been done in Notebridge, but maybe not this evening, but can you, because I have asked, I gave a list to Mark and Ian, and I did ask if they got that work's covered, but I'm not sure because the weather's been pretty bad. So, you know, if we can find out, because there was, you know, quite a bit at Notebridge. And on the crunch, which is going to Craze Hill, I understand I've been told we can't have a crunch at Notebridge because there's nowhere suitable. But I then heard from other members that the council was considering, because the reason we can't have it is because of all the vehicles that attend as part of the crunch, because they're obviously recycling lots of other materials, so I understand that. But Notebridge is quite a large area, and you know, we get lots of dumping over there, so it would be good if the council, you know, can you tell me if you've considered any of, you know, what's been suggested about taking some vehicles down, so that we can try to find an appropriate place, so that, you know, a future crunch can come to Notebridge. Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. On the first question, I'll get the answers back to you. But I have taken a snapshot there of the past 2 months of works. So I know that the Pride teams have been in Noakebridge, but I can clarify them locations, and I'll get the officer to get back to you on that and confirm the locations that have been dealt with through any requests. With regards to the crunch, I'm thinking it's something Alan Underdown's part of the service. They managed it from the refuse and waste side. I think about Noakebridge and where are the locations now when you have the number of vehicles. I mean, it's quite challenging, and working with the other area committees to find locations that are safe to operate. It needs, the number of vehicles, the separation of the waste. It's difficult to find safe locations, not just for the staff, but for the public. I'm unaware if there's been an assessment to look at Noakebridge. Off the top of my head, I'm struggling to think where there might be somewhere that's safe, but I can certainly take that back to Alan and come back to you if that's okay.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. When I said about, I know there's other parts of the borough where they can't get the crunch either, and I thought the council was looking into taking away some of the vehicles so that there was 1 or 2 that might be able to come to Noakebridge, because you're never going to come there if you're going to bring lots and lots of vehicles. I know what the first crunch, probably the one and only one, it was taken, I didn't go, it was taken down at the bottom of Wash Road where the, Wash House Farm is? I mean, as that isn't a very busy road, I mean, I don't know if you went on their land, but if they parked, because if you take it right down the bottom there and they park, if you take that into consideration, just look into it, it might be a nice area to have 1 or 2 vehicles there, to give Noakebridge a bit of a chance.
Yeah, like I said, I'll take this up with Alan. I wasn't aware that they were looking to reduce numbers of vehicles, but it's not part of the service that I manage, so that might be the case. But I can certainly raise that with Alan and get back to you.
Councillor Myers.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Rob. Just a quick question regarding the new electric equipment. Obviously, when the ones, obviously, the main important thing, of course, is the vibrations. I know I've used machinery before, and it is quite a problem in future years with continuous use. But what's the battery life on these? Because obviously, if we're the ones that use fuel, generally you can basically go all day and it's absolutely fine. But the electric ones, they do have a tendency, after a little while, to basically pack in. So will they be carrying, tons of spare batteries, and will they be able to, because otherwise they're just going to have to stop work midway through the day.
Thanks, Councillor. Yeah, so we've trialled a number of different types of electric machinery where we've found it's not as effective for the battery power is in our countryside teams when we're aggressively going through long grass with the weed whips, and we find there just isn't the power. We've trialled these with Pride teams in the past, and it certainly works for the work they're doing. As for batteries, they have got backup batteries. We've got battery banks that can be mobile as well. It's not. We don't foresee it as an issue. It's been working now for a number of weeks with the teams, and we're not having to carry tons of batteries. It's a one and a backup in general, but they're surviving the calls. I mean, battery. It's always a nervous thing for us to transfer to that. I mean, reality is with the trigger time that you're allowed on a hedge trimmer or a strimmer, they're probably packing up they should be stopping that element of work before a battery's even run out, if you can understand. So if they're using a petrol mower, the trigger time on there before they've met their HABS readings to stop working, and what they can't do is pick up another machine beyond that. So it's not as if we can put the strimmer down and pick up a hedge trimmer. We've done their output for the day on HABS. With the battery, the HABs are so low that they can use them all day. Not to say that the battery would last all day on a trigger time, but I mean it is something that, you know, it's the proof's in the pudding in over time. You know, it's like any battery, the lifespan of a battery, how long does that, depending on the usage, it's how long they will last. But at the moment, it's working, and it's keeping the guy safe from that element of hand-on vibration. But, you know, it's going to be time that tells. But certainly our costs have slightly reduced. I would say not hugely, but it works for us at the moment.
Thank you. Councillor Aldridge?
Yeah, Rob, so just on that sort of point, or is it possible to put chargers onto the vehicle so you could actually run the vehicle engine into, and have a power lead off to a charge unit to top a battery up with?
I'm not sure if we've got that in place at this stage. I don't think we have. That can be done though. We can import electric mobile chargers in there, but we haven't had the need to at this stage. But I think that's the long-term thing. Is, you know, as batteries get older, would we need to charge on site? But that hasn't been the case so far. But it is something it is something that can be introduced.
Just to follow up on that one, so I've got quite a few battery operated power tools that all use the same sort of battery mechanism, and I've just got sort of 1 to 2 sort of chargers, and if I'm doing a bit of work for one of the kids or something of the sort, or doing a lot of sort of heavy work, then so I just put a charger on one side. I'm just thinking, I know because a lot of the chargers can come with split leads, so you can change between either a 13 amps plug or sort of a 12 volts car link, or vehicle link, or something like that. Then you could just swap that over and just have one charger onto the vehicle and whatever. Just a thought.
Councillor Sargent?
Thank you, Chairman. Rob, remember Durban Lane Pond? I've had a number of people complain about the reeds in the pond. Is that something that the Pride team can do? Because in the winter they die back, but as you know, they kind of grow again, but they're really taking over, and the people that live around there have been complaining. And I did ask someone come to see us at our surgery the other Saturday, and I did say to her, would you mind writing to me, because I always like to let the council have you know, an actual resident, rather than it just being us councillors all the time. But while you're here, I thought, because you know about the pond, can you look into that for me, please? Because I don't know whether, you know, they probably die back, but it's as the weather gets on, and in the summer they're just really spreading over all of the pond.
Thanks, Councillor. I'm going to say that the Pride teams are not trained in that area. It's not something we couldn't train them in, but accessing water is a completely different risk assessment. But, you know, generally we would like to use our water bailiffs. We can do that. They've got all the kit, they've got dry suits, so potentially we could use them to get in there rather than the Pride teams. it's more PPE that we'd have to purchase for the Pride teams for sort of like as a one-off job. So we would use other resources for that rather than going through the training and the purchasing of all the equipment when it's very infrequent. Across our 65 ponds we had last year, only 4 of those had water in by the end of last summer. Durban Lane was one of them, which is a good thing. Durban Lane did still have water in, so there's a positive there. I know it's a very difficult pond to tackle in its location, as you know, and getting to the back end of that pond is difficult. And then there's the silt disposal. But it's certainly something that we could, if you could email in for me, and then I can certainly look at that.
Thanks for that. Councillor Jeffrey?
Thanks, Chairman. Rob, I appreciate the work of the team, and I think there's one bit that's been missed. I've seen one reference of the Wick Estate and other parts of Wickford Park, but what really does need doing is the corner of Lower Park Road. I know I've raised this, I think, with Mark before, and I'll email you after this meeting, but it does need cutting back because half the pavement's been taken away from all the bramble. So if you can, send the team out there by the end of this week, hopefully, to let people use the cycle path and footway. It's just by the BP garage, but if you can, we need to sort of get that stuff redone because it's actually cutting access for the Wick Estate. So, thanks.
Yeah, the specifics I'd have to take up with the team, but if you could email me, then I'll certainly look into it. Thanks.
Any other questions? No? I'd just like to say on the crunches, yeah, obviously we've only got 2 locations, but what I did was they was both scheduled for the Wick, so I did move one to Crows Hill. So I do try to be fair on this, and just as a point, I mean, it's for bulky items, so someone's going to put something in their car. Does it really matter if they travel 1 or 2 miles? I'm just trying to be devil's advocate here. And I did try and get one in Wickford North, there's one in Crouch and Castleton and one in Wickford Park Ward, but we can't even get one in the whole of Wickford North Ward, which, as you know, is the whole one side of the railway from Shopgate to Barton Hall. We can't even get one there, so at least you've got one within a couple of miles of the Notebridge Estate, and it's fairly central for that area, and then the Wick one has to serve the whole of Wickford. So it's the best we can do at the moment. But yeah, I have looked into other sites, but that's the only sites we can do at the moment. Yeah, you want to come back on?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. No, I appreciate that. I really do. But it's just that Notebridge, the people there, you know, we do have quite, you know, we've got a couple of elderly person schemes, and there's a lot of people that used to barrow. You know, that barrowed it along. We can't rely that everybody's got a car to take it there. But I need to raise that point, because if people are looking, they'll be thinking, well, I haven't got a car, or I can't do that. But I mean, they're well used when they are there. But you know, if we can, do you get publicity out on them so that our people can know about it as well?
Well, the council do put publicity out, but I tend to put it on all the Facebook site, and I'm actually on a Crows Hill site as well, so I will go on a Notebridge site and put it on there if you want, yeah, but I do try and publicise them, but then everyone can, now you know the dates, so we can all publicise them, it all helps, yeah. Well, I was thinking yeah, the council itself publicise them on their website. I know,
service.
Yeah. I try, as I said, I try and publicise them myself on Facebook, but yeah, the council definitely do publicise them on their website. Yeah, I'm trying to get other sites. That's you know, to be fair, that's all I'll say. Okay, thank you for that, Rob. Very good. Thank you. Right, we go on to item number 6, the funding considerations. We've got 5 funding considerations, and the first one is an of 3,800 investment in the purchase and installation of a steel 4 metre arch welcome sign at the entrance of the Wickford main car park from the Wickford Believing Basildon Capital Fund. I'll pass you over to the officer now for that.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So this request seeks capital funding for the installation of a ornate arch welcome sign at the entrance of the Wick main car park, Wickford main car park. The sign would be positioned on the edge of the car park, facing the rear of Sutton's and Greg's, marking the alleyway that leads directly into the Wickford High Street. Like the Chair said, the cost would be £3,860. And that is for the purchase and the installation.
Thank you for that. Have we got any comments on that? Councillor Jeffrey?
Thanks, Chairman. Just some explanation on what it would look like. I know it says ornate, but I'd like to just think, is it like the one on next to the Poundland or things like that? So just some greater clarification and the need for the sign.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, Councillor, it's of a similar design to the Wickford Market. It's designed to fit in with the other black steel signs with the gold writing. It's going to be arched like they call them cemetery signs. So they're going to, but that's the style. But it's in the yeah. That's the design. But it's in keeping with. The rest of the signage that the Town Council has installed. So we're specifically, and I understand the company that gave the quote also produced the other signs.
Councillor Hammond?
Just checking that we managed to get planning permissions, because we weren't sure of who the landowners were of that piece of ground, were we?
Yes, Councillor. Initially, there were 2 signs that were being considered and a finger sign. So the one that we're talking about is on Basildon Council land, the edge of the car park. The other sign that was being considered, we had written to the landowners trying to seek permission and have not heard back on that one. So the one that you're actually considering here tonight is actually on council land.
Oh, that's great. That clears it up. Thank you.
Any other comments on that? No. Okay, can we take a vote on that, please? All those in favour, please show. That's unanimous. No one against. So that's okay. Thank you for that. Right, we're going to item number 2. A 7,537 investment towards resurfacing of the swimming pool car park. I'll pass you over to the officer again for some.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. The request seeks capital funding towards the costs of resurfacing a deteriorated section of the Wickford swimming pool car park. The area in question is in poor condition and requires resurfacing, along with the repainting of the parking bay lines to restore safety, usability and appearance. The total project cost is £15,070, with the remaining balance being paid by Basildon Council's Environmental Services.
Any questions? Councillor Jeffrey.
Thanks, Chairman. I just wanted to thank officers for bringing this forward and for their contribution of 50%. The car park area in the Wickford swimming pool is in a seriously deteriorated condition, and it's quite disappointing that we're having to fund it through this area committee. They did the entrance to the swimming pool, but they stopped about a quarter of the way in. So hopefully, once we've been able to get this done and approved tonight, we'll be able to sort of resurface the surface of the moon. Cheers.
Thank you for that. A bit ambitious, but yeah, we'll try and do what we can. Any other comments? No? Okay, we'll take a vote on item number 2 then. A 7,537 investment towards the resurfacing of the Wickford swimming pool car park from the Believe in Basildon Fund Capital. All those in favour, please show. Unanimous on that one. Right, okay, so we go on to item number 3, a £13,817 investment for the purchase and installation of basketball hoop in Netherden Park. Over to the officer.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. The request seeks capital funding for the replacement of the existing basketball hoop and base in Netherden Park. The facility is used regularly by young people for informal recreation and physical activity, but the current equipment is no longer fit for purpose and requires full replacement. We've received an initial quote of £13,817 and this has been attained, but however the 2 additional quotes will need to be required to conform with our procurement process. If there's any change in the cost, this will be referred back to the area committee for approval.
Thank you. Any comments? Councillor Sargent.
Thank you, Chairman. I've got two comments. It's pretty expensive for a hoop. You know, maybe the officer can explain why it's so costly. I totally agree with it. I agree with equipment for young people, keep them fit and healthy and happy. This is, you know, as it's quite a large sum of money, where does Basildon Council's budget for equipment replacement come into it? Because we can't use all of our funding on paying for equipment that's in parks, because we would be taking money away from our community groups. But as I've said, I am totally in agreement with it because our young people are going to use it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. From the first point in relation to the cost, I think we're looking at a robust one, one which will hopefully serve the community for a number of years. However, though, this is only the first quote. We may get other quotes which of similar quality which come under that price. So again, as soon as we hear anything, as soon as we get the 3 quotes, we will refer that back to the area committee for approval. But I envisage that will be the maximum amount required to fit that. The other question with the parks budget, I can go away and try and get an answer for you. I haven't got that clarification or answer with me this evening, but I can certainly go back and get clarification of that and report back to the area committee.
Councillor Myers.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really say it in the report because where the hoop currently is, there is actually no hard standing. It's just on grass. So I'm assuming that the 13,000 is going to include some hard standing because the cost of a hoop is not £13,000. That's mad. My second point I was going to make, you said, you know, the procurement person needs to wait for 3 quotes. I'm a bit concerned that if we approve tonight the provision of £13,000 in funding, when you go out to seek 2 more quotes, they're going to go, well, we've got 13 grand. It's already been approved. So our quote will be 13 grand, whereas the cost of it might be 10. Yeah. Just saying. You need those 3 quotes first. I'm all happy for it and everything, but you need those quotes first for value for money. Otherwise, we're going to be approving £13,000. You're going to go out to tender for 2 more quotes. They're going to see this meeting saying we put our hand up for £13,500, and they're going to say, well, that's our quote.
Yes, Councillor, just to your point, the details on the quote, you mentioned the grass area and the cost obviously wouldn't be for the hoop. The largest amount, nearly £10,000 of that, is to excavate 44 metres square of grass, dispose off site, supply and lay 44 metres square of type 1 MOT stone, supply and lay 27 linear metres of PCC edging, including concrete, supply and lay tarmac, supply and lay thermoplastic cork markings. So that's the larger part of the cost. So the actual hoop itself only comes in at 1,580. So that is the larger part of the quote. The only example I can give, we had a similar situation with the Nissen hut. So originally we'd had a quote, but we knew the quote that came, this was for Pitsea Area Committee. So what we had was one quote, and we did indeed go forward to have 2 other additional quotes, and those quotes varied quite an amount. So it didn't go out to tender as such, but we sought 2 other quotes, and so they were independent quotes. The procurement requirements are that anything over £10,000, we need to have 3 competitive quotes. But we did have quite a variance on those 3 quotes that came in.
Councillor Sargent.
Well, I'm glad we asked the questions, because that's an awful lot of money to spend on, you know, a base to put a hoop that doesn't cost that amount of money. And realistically, and this is, you know, my second point, is the fact that we, the area committee, are more or less paying for the work the council should be doing. I'm not sure, from what Colleen has said, I'm not sure if one officer said we needed to get 2 more quotes, but I think Colleen said, or did I misunderstand, that you had a mixture of, you've already had a mixture of quotes for the installation? No. So if you've had just the 1 quote, that's fair enough. But what I was going to say, what I was going to put forward, Chairman, is maybe Basildon Council could put some of the costs towards the installation, because when it was 13,000, I understand it needed a bit of installation, but I wasn't understanding the actual works that does need to be done. And so really the supply of a hoop is like £2,000, and I think it would be incumbent on the council, Basildon Council, to put some money towards those costs and reduce ours down, so that we've got some more money to spend on community projects.
Anyone want to come back on that? No? No? Okay. Well, I kind of disagree. I think we've got the money to pay for it. It's something that needs doing for the Netherden Park. So unless you're going to put an amendment in, we'll go to the vote.
If I put an amendment in and it's not going to get supported, then there's no point in doing it. But the point is, overall, is that we shouldn't be, this committee is here to fund, you know, and if you read all of the paperwork and the behind, you know, the benefits of all of this is for the communities, whereas we're just doing, you know, putting in something that Basildon Council is not making a cost on, and on other things, you know, we ask the parish councils to do so.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. I can, but I don't agree. So, and as I said, unless you're going to put an amendment in, then we'll vote on it. Okay, so we vote on it.
Oh, Brockman's got a question.
Hey? Oh, sorry, you got a question? Yeah, go on.
Yeah, following on from Terry's point, you know, I'm not going to say I'm not going to vote for this, because I think it's a good idea, but perhaps in future, if we do get an area committee after the elections, perhaps someone like the town council can put their hands in their pockets and pay for things like this, because that's what they're there for as well. You know, it's not just us. They need to start paying for things as well. And you well know, Chair, that they have got the money squirreled away. So, just a point I'm making. they could do that.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Brockman. Can I respond to that? Yeah.
I thank Eunice for her proposal in future, but I don't agree with that, because Basildon Council, I just wonder what, they cancelled all of our parks replacements, parks equipment replacements, and so as a result of that, young children are going to suffer. And as I said, I'm very much in support of it because it's for young people, and I agree with them. And I won't vote against it, but I do take the point that in future, if I'll just think that we're still going to get committees. I'll take that on board. But in future, we ask Basildon Council, because it is their land, and it really is their jobs to do it, because parish councils take up a lot of the flack or the slack from Basildon Council. So therefore, I think that if we get any further grants, requests for grants from this pot, then we should share the cost with Basildon.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I take it on board. I don't disagree in principle, but on this occasion I do disagree. So, although can I take a vote on it then? So that's where are we? 13,817 investment for the purchase of installation of basketball hoop in Netherden Park. All those in favour, please show. Yep, it's unanimous. Okay, thank you for that. Right, we go on to number 4. A 3,000 investment in the purchase and installation of boulders or bollards on 2 grass verges at 2 locations in Wickford. They are Apple Tree Way and London Road, in the Believe in Basildon Fund capital investment. Over to Dave.
Thank you, Chair. This request seeks capital funding for the installation of boulders or robust wooden bollards on 2 grass verges in locations in Wickford where there is persistent illegal parking and verge damage has been reported. The proposed works aim to protect the verges, improve the appearance of the area and prevent ongoing misuse of public land. The sites are Apple Tree Way, which is council owned, and London Road, where we would need Highways permission for any installation if agreed.
Thank you. Any comments on that? Councillor Jeffrey.
Thanks, Chairman. I just wanted to thank officers for their work on this, and I think from the suggestions I had from the 2 different groups, it's actually good to see that we've been able to get it to the Wickford Area Committee. And I think the most pressing one, when the Chairman and I visited Apple Tree Way, just the poor condition that it was left in. And I think what we also need to be clear with as an area committee is that the refuge dust carts need to really not be driving down them, because they are responsible for a large portion of that damage. So we really need to be clear, if we can, as a committee and through the officers, to say, please don't drive down and destroy so much of the grass verge on Apple Tree Way. So I just wanted to thank the residents for bringing this forward for me to put to the committee, and hopefully that officers can take away the point that we shouldn't be having our grass verges destroyed in Apple Tree Way or elsewhere. Thanks.
Thanks for that. Councillor Aldridge.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just curious, from memory, and I stand to be corrected, the 3,000 was just an estimate from us as to what this is. Do we actually have any quotes or anything for it, please?
I'll pass that one to the officers.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, this was to enable the money to be carried forward, because you can only carry forward capital for identified projects. We have started to get some quotes back in for boulders and bollards. I think a bollard equates, it's usually around £120 per bollard, and that includes fitting. Boulders are considerably more. Obviously, they're harder to move, and they don't rot, and they're not prone to damage. So we envisaged that if it was boulders, it would be considerably more than the £3,000. But that would enable us to carry the money over from this year, and then we can discuss it potentially at the first meeting after this financial year.
Okay, thank you very much.
That's the Sergeant.
You'll be aware, Chairman, that we at Note Bridge, it was the parish council that put boulders on the Wash Road plan field, and we went over to a boulder place over in Grays and chose the boulders. I think we have 6 or 7 in total. And if the method that we used was that when the actual crane brought the boulders, we made sure that there was because you're only going to ever get the crane at once, we made sure that dips were made in the soil. Somebody would do a little bit of digging out, doesn't matter what the size it is, so that the crane, obviously there needs to be somebody there to assist, you know, an officer or a workforce. So the crane goes right, puts the boulder right into where it needs to go, and that way you don't have to pay out for additional. So that's on the bollards. We spent quite a bit of money, because on the ones we got, because those seem pretty cheap. I know you're saying £100. I'm not sure whether they dropped down into the ground, but ours went down quite extensively, and then the boulders, the bollards themselves, they drop down rather than go into the side, because if anybody's going to do any ramming or anything like that, because you'll need some bollards. If it's keeping off of grass verges, you'll need access to be able to cut the grass and maintain the verges. That's why the bollards are there. I just thought I'd put that one in. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks for that. Yeah. I think at the moment we're looking at boulders or bollards, and we're not sure what. And the issue obviously is bollards would need some sort of maintenance. Boulders would be permanent, and would, yeah. So that's the issue. So at the moment, all we're looking is to ring fence £3,000 to go forward to next year's area committees, hopefully. So that's what we're looking at the moment. So is there any other comments? Can we take a vote on that then? 3,000 investment for the purchase of and installation of boulders or bollards on 2 grass verges at 2 locations in Wickford from the Believe in Basildon Fund Capital. All those in favour, please show. We are doing well tonight. Thank you for that. That's carried. We go on to item number 5. A £500 funding award to the Friends of Wickford Cemetery to restore the overgrown boulders from Wickford Community Priority Fund, Wickford Park and Wickford North wards. I think it's Wickford Park ward, but revenue. Over to the officer.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. The Friends of Wickford Cemetery are seeking funding to restore a heavily overgrown stretch, which is approximately 52 metres. Now this is based alongside the burial grounds next to the garden area, which is already being maintained by the Friends of Wickford Cemetery volunteer group. The project will enhance the local environment, increase biodiversity, and support the ongoing community involvement in caring for that site.
Thank you for that. Any comments? Councillor Jeffrey?
Just a brief one, Chairman. I wanted to thank the Friends of the Wickford Cemetery for their hard work, and I do know one of the people there, and they do some amazing work, so I'm pleased that we've been able to support them on this occasion. Thanks.
And I'll second that. Any other comments? We'll take a vote on it then. A £500 funding award to the Friends of Wickford Cemetery to restore the overgrown boulders from the Wickford Community Priority Fund. All those in favour, please show. Unanimous. Thank you for that. Right, we're going to our last funding award. A £600 funding award to the Wickford Wellbeing Cafe towards the cost of an activity programme from the Wickford Priority Community Fund, Wickford Park Ward Revenue. Over to the officer.
Thank you, Chair. The Wickford Wellbeing Cafe at the Netherton Centre has been operating since May 2025 with the aim of supporting social isolated residents, welcoming space to meet people. £600 to contribute towards the cost, which is just over £2,000 to deliver activities for an 8-month period. The funding would help support guest speakers, activity specialists, and wellbeing sessions, including seated exercise.
Thank you for that. Any comments? Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Chair. The Wickford Wellbeing Cafe have their sessions at the Netherton Community Centre from 11 a.m. till 1:30 p.m. I think it's on a Wednesday. Is it on a Wednesday? It's on a Wednesday. Where the Primary Care Network had different sessions. So they have a session for dementia. I mean, last week I went to one where it was diabetic retinopathy. I'm diabetic myself, so I went along to see what they were talking about. And it was very well attended. They do seem to have a lot of people go to this units. It was a bit of a slow starter when they first turned up because obviously advertisement needs doing and etc. But they have done very well. They have a year's contract, and obviously this extra funding will be able to help them to provide more activities and more classes going forwards through the primary care network, which everyone I think agrees with. So well done to them, and I hope residents, if they're listening, know where it is now, and they'll be able to go and attend if there's a class or a discussion that may interest them.
Thank you for that. Any other comments? Right, we'll take a vote on it then. A £600 funding award to the Wickford Wellbeing Cafe in the Netherton Park. All those in favour, please show. Okay, that's the end of the meeting. Thank you all for attending. Thank you.